Thanks, man. Hello, everybody. My name is Josh, and I'm going to be refuting Jesse's claim that GMO foods have a disadvantage to both us people and the environment. And before I get into the claims, I'm going to start on his background, where he defines GMOs. And in his definition of GMOs, GMOs are an organism whose DNA has been altered in a non-natural way. This can be done with pesticides, herbicides, hormones, and other things like that. Now, that's a real incorrect way to define it. There was a definition put out in an article given by Tessie Powell, who was a PhD student at Harvard University in the field of chemical biology. She has gone on to receive her PhD. She stated that GMO is a plant or animal that has been created through genetic engineering. Under this definition, plants and animals created by selective breeding or animals that have been given supplements such as hormones and antibiotics are not considered GMO foods. So this throws out his whole case on the animal part of his GMO argument by that definition. And then later he goes into his first claim, GMOs are linked to linked to health problems and diseases. And he highlights an article done by Jeffrey Smith, who is an author and activist for organic foods. And in it he highlights a case study that was done on mice, where they were given foods and it had issues with the reproductive organs, kidneys, and liver. Now, when I tried to find articles to refute this, I found a lot for GMO, all highlighted that. And then I stumbled on another Harvard PhD candidate who had later gone on to receive her PhD in molecular, cellular, and organism biology. And she did a case study that was done by a Chinese group of genetic engineers, where they fed over 7,000 samples of GMO potatoes and sweet peppers and non-GMO potatoes and sweet peppers to rats. And there was no notable difference in organism health. That same group also did a test to determine whether or not there would be any damage to reproductive organs and offspring. And in 3 generations of males that were fed GMO foods, there was no damage noted in the testes of the rats, which is going to be the male's reproductive organ. And then in 5 generations of females, the results was no damage in the sex organs or their offspring. Later, that same group used the Ames test, which was a test developed by Barnes Ames out of Berkeley. And they did this to determine, they wanted to determine whether or not there'd be actually any genetic or DNA change in the rats. And over a course of 5 generations, the researchers once again found inconclusive results that proved that there was any harm done to the animals. And again, his next claim, he targets herbicide, the herbicide and pesticides use. When you pesticides is a broad statement that includes insecticides and pesticides. And NPR highlighted a interesting article done, and that Iowa State performed a test of over about 5,000 crops, non-GMO and GMO, and they found that the insecticides used, because the plants had been genetically modified to be resistant to insect use, that they used less insecticides. And later they found that herbicides had gone up slightly in the beginning stages of that. But there was another article that I found that noted that was done by a gentleman, Andrew Niss, who is a PhD in agronomy, which is farming and agriculture, that he found that in the last recent years the trends have been that herbicides and GMO crops have gone down while conventional farmings and non-GMO crops have gone up. And thank you, that's fine.
All right, well, you start with a challenge to the definition and you suggest that the way that it's defined wipes out a whole bunch of the argument. It's not quite clear why you think that. There needs to be a clear explanation of how that works. That sounds like it's like a mechanical sort of thing where we're playing with the verbiage as opposed to coming to grips with the issues that are in dispute here. I'd be a little bit careful about trying to rely too much on that sort of argument. That doesn't make it worthless. It means it just needs to be given a little bit more context. And then the rest of the presentation isn't distinctly organized. It's really focused around finding counter studies that respond to the claims that the advocate was making. I appreciated that you respond to the mice study with a rat study, and that the rat study extensively looked at multiple generations and found no significant results. So I think that's what you need to do, is you're going to make this argument. You're going to say, okay, well, their study said this, and here's what they used, and here's what the results were, and here's our study, the one that is more contemporary, that it has a bigger base. It found no significant results, and it was over multiple generations, and it comes from somebody who's a lot more authoritative than Smith, who we don't know who that person is, except that they're an author. So did they conduct the study, or they're reporting on some other study? I'm telling you, the research that I found suggests that there isn't this effect, and it's more broad-based than anything that was cited by the other side. So that's kind of the way you want. I mean, make a comparison. Tell me why it's better.
Okay.
Why is my argument better than the other side's argument? Why is my evidence the one that you ought to believe? And I think you need to be a little bit more vigorous about making that contrasting position. The argument about the herbicides and the pesticides comes down to the same sort of thing. You, in essence, are suggesting that there's going to be less insecticide used in the long run, as genetically modified organisms are the kinds of foods that we're growing, and you've got a study that found that particular result. I'm still not sure what the harmful consequences are. Both of you are making, I guess, kind of mutually exclusive claims. One saying it's going up, one saying it's going down. You're saying it's going down. Your explanation about why is that yours looked at data over a longer period of time, that there might have been an initial increase, but after a while it goes down. Does it go down substantially enough to undermine or delegitimize that original increase? I don't know. How much difference does it make in the long run and show why it's now safer for the environment because we're using less of this? I don't know. So you've got a good point. It is responsive to the advocate's position. In the long run, though, I don't have much to make a comparison on and make a decision based on. All right, thank you. And that's where we're going to stop for today. Other than Nate, is there anybody else that still needs to speak as well? Yeah, we've got 5 or 6 people. Okay, well, we'll plan on hearing you first thing on Thursday.
Are we doing any quizzes here?
No, we don't have a quiz on Thursday. We are going to try and get started on the next project, but we don't have a quiz.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have a roll sheet, so I'm going to be.
Did I send them around a roll sheet?
Yes, you did.
Oh, I did? Where is it? Okay.
Do you need a person or do you need the outline?
No.
Just ours? Okay. Should I stable it to the... I forgot to include it in my review.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's actually not mine. Give me a stable here.
No, it's okay.
All right, thank you.
I was just wondering. I think it's coming up soon.
So Mr. next to it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what we figured out. Did I?
Were we gonna post the study?
I was just going to ask, did the
No,
study
I
going to get
can-
posted? It did, okay. I need to do that.
360. Okay, so I read this.
Yes, sir.
I was just gonna happen to ask if you happen to have the comments from the last speech. I know you had gave them back previously, but I don't think I was here that day.
Oh.
If not, it's fine.
The claim of fact
Yeah.
speech, way back, ancient history. I'm sure I have it somewhere.
If you don't have it on you right now, it's fine. I was just-
I'm going to have to dig for it, I think. Wait.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I appreciate it. Thank you.